everyone, and welcome back to Fiberflex Knitting. Today we're going to be making the cutest little fall project ever, this gorgeous little knit pumpkin. This is so easy to make, and I'm going to walk you through it every step of the way. Now this pumpkin is deceptively simple because it's just a rectangle, and we're going to be seaming it together, stuffing it, and doing a little bit of finish work, and the result is this beautiful little pumpkin. This is a great way to practice your knitting skills. We're just going to do some simple knit stitches and purl stitches, and I'm going to show you how to put it all together. Now, before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button to get all the latest Fiberflex knitting updates. I share full project tutorials like this one, stitch tutorials, very simple learn to knit kind of tutorials as well. And it's just a fun place to hang out. So if you're wanting to brush up on your knitting, if you're brand new to knitting, you're definitely in the right place. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button, be sure and hit it and get all the latest Fiberflex knitting updates. Now this knit pumpkin pattern can be found on the Fiberflex blog. It's a free written pattern. We're going to go through the whole thing here today on this video, but you can also get the ad-free PDFs both in my Ravelry shop and my Etsy shop as well if you want the ad-free PDF version. So all the links to everything can be found down below for that. So let's jump in and learn how to knit this super cute pumpkin. So let's look at our knit pumpkin up close. This is simply a knit rectangle that we're going to be seaming up, stuffing, and adding some cute embellishments to it. So I'm going to walk you through this every step of the way. Our pumpkin has a circumference of about 16 inches around and about 5.5 inches tall. That includes the stem. Now yours may vary a little bit depending on the size of your rectangle and the embellishments that you use on that, but this is kind of a general guideline. For this project, you're going to need a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle. We're going to be using a cinnamon stick for the stem. A tape measure is super helpful, especially if you want to change up the sizing a little bit. We're going to be using some glue to glue our stem in and some fill to fill up our pumpkin. Now I have some fiber fill here. You can use other things you may have, such as some yarn scraps, some crumpled up fabric scraps, even cotton balls would be fine. You could also recycle an old throw pillow or something and use the stuffing from that as well. We're going to be using some ribbon to tie around the stem. I chose some kind of fall looking plaid ribbon with a little bit of cream through it that matches my yarn. And for the yarn, you'll just need some yarn leftovers. I have about 40 yards here of some number 6 super bulky yarn. This is some Bernat blanket yarn in a cream color yarn I had left over from something else. And you can use any number 6 super bulky yarn. You'll be just fine with that. And you can choose more of like a traditional orange color for your pumpkin. I chose this cream color because I thought it looked really pretty with this ribbon. And then for our needles, we're going to be using a pair of US 11 8mm straight knitting needles. These are bamboo needles. Any of the supplies that you may need for this project, you can find down in the link below. So let's jump in. We're going to do our knitted rectangle first and then move on to assemble our pumpkin later. Okay, so to begin, we're going to cast on 21 stitches. Now, if you want to change up the number of cast on stitches, that's totally fine. Grab your tape measure and you can customize a little bit. There's no special stitch count for this pumpkin and the rectangle that we'll be creating, so any number of cast on stitches is totally fine. If you want to make a giant pumpkin, you can, of course, cast on more. So what we're going to do is use the long tail cast on. I'm going to kind of zip through it, but if you need a more in-depth tutorial, check out the one above. So I'm going to estimate my tail. I like to do about a wingspan for something like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put a slip knot on our hook to begin. And this will also count as the first stitch, by the way. So wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop, bring the yarn behind that loop, reach in with your needle, bring up the loop, and tighten just like that, okay? And like I said, we're going to cast on 21 stitches, okay? So that was 1, and we're going to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, pushing things back as needed, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Again, if you need to change the number of stitches, feel free to do that, okay? So let's move on to row 1. This is super easy. For row 1, we're just going to knit all the stitches. And you can kind of scoot this tail out of the way. We may use this later to seam up our pumpkin. So just kind of scoot it out of the way for now. If we end up not using it, you can just tuck it into the center of your pumpkin and it'll be hidden anyway, okay? So we don't really have to deal with the tail right now. So again, for row 1, we're just going to knit all the stitches. So go ahead and knit the first stitch and every stitch across. Now, again, if you're learning how to knit, which I know a lot of you who come to Fiberflex Knitting are learning how to knit, there is also a full tutorial on the knit stitch. You can check it out up above here as well. Okay, any basic knitting stitches and techniques, I do have a full tutorial for that you can check out at any time. So again, we're just knitting every stitch across, and this yarn is very kind of plushy and squishy. It's very forgiving too. So I chose this yarn on purpose because as we make our rectangle and later assemble our pumpkin, it'll be very forgiving with the stitches being kind of squished together and not showing any of the stuffing inside. Okay, so coming across with our knit stitches here. And again, if you need to change up the number of stitches to, you know, increase or decrease your pumpkin size, of course, feel free to do that as well. This is just kind of like a basic starting point. Okay, so I went ahead and knit all the stitches across. So for row 2, we're going to purl all the stitches across. So when you're purling, again, I have a full tutorial for that as well, if you need to check that out or refresh a little bit, but check that out above. But just keep in mind when you purl, what you want to do is make sure you have your yarn going down the front of your work when you work purl stitches, okay? So we're just going to purl the first stitch and every stitch across, okay? So go ahead and work your purl stitches all the way across, and when we rejoin, we'll move on to our next part. Okay, so I worked my purl stitches across, and you can see we're just starting to get some of those iconic little knitted V's on the other side, okay? So what you're gonna do is we're gonna, again, make a rectangle, and you're just gonna keep repeating rows 1 and 2, 1 and 2, over and over and over again until we have a nice long rectangle strip. Okay, I repeated my knit and purl rows until my piece was about 12 inches long, and as a side note, it's about 9 inches wide, okay? So the last thing we want to do for the knitting part of our project is we need to bind off all stitches, okay? So if you're not familiar with that, we're going to do a basic bind off. And all that is you're going to knit one stitch, and let me just zoom in a little closer. If you need to see the basic bind off in more detail, check out the basic bind off video that I have. So we knit one stitch, knit the second stitch, and then you'll just take your left needle, lift it up, over, and off, just like that, okay? Knit the next stitch and just do the same thing. Lift it up, over, and off, and so forth, all the way across until you have just one stitch left on your needle. Okay, we did our bind off and we're ready to get this off the needle. So we have just one stitch here on our needle, like I mentioned before. We're going to cut a long tail because we're going to seam this up. So just kind of estimate, I did about like 2 feet or so. Pull your loop a little bit out and then just hold it really securely with your hand because this is the last active stitch. Take the end of your tail, send it through that loop, and then just pull it through and then just like snug it down so it tightens it up, okay? Then this is the outside of our pumpkin. If you look at the front, this is the front or the right side, and then the back looks like kind of like little ripples, okay? So this is going to be the inside of our pumpkin, and I actually had to attach my yarn. I was using my yarn ball and it just stopped, so I had to tie it back on in the middle of one yarn ball, so that was kind of odd, but it's okay. So we're going to grab our tail and our tapestry needle. We're going to flip this so that the inside of it is facing outward. So those V's that you have, fold them inward, okay? Then we're going to take our tail, grab your tapestry needle, and we're just going to seam this using the whip stitch, okay? So just hold your little ends together, sandwich them together, and make sure you go through both layers. The whip stitch is actually like a spiral that goes through your work, and it's very invisible, okay? So we're just going to use that seam all the way across here. Okay, now once we've seamed up the side, now we're going to seam up, this will be the bottom of the pumpkin, but we're going to open it up this time. Now before we sandwich the layers together, now we're going to work a running stitch along the edge, okay? That's going to give us, we're going to cinch it closed, okay? So we're just going to go in and out, in and out. Now this yarn is bulky and kind of forgiving. So we're just going to go in and out all the way around. And as you're pulling your tail through, just kind of pull it in like this. Don't pull it too hard. This kind of yarn snaps very easily because it's kind of like a thread through the middle with the plushie on the outside. And then when you kind of cinch it closed, you're going to go through and just create some X's around the opening. And that'll just kind of like hold it closed, okay? And just kind of make it so that that opening doesn't budge. Okay, I have a tail here. We're going to deal with that in just a minute. Okay, so I'm just going to do kind of like a series of X's across this opening just to keep it closed. And I'm doing this about 3 times. All right, so once that part's done, you pull that through and then take your 2 ends and then just tie them together. Now I'm going to shorten mine, mine are pretty long still. I'm going to shorten them just to make it easier to tie. And go ahead and tie those together. Now, the really neat thing about pumpkins or anything that you stuff that you make is we don't have to deal with these ends. We're going to turn this right side out now. See, there's some ends here, there's some ends here. Those are just going to be part of the stuffing. So we're going to grab some of our stuffing next, and we're just going to do small amounts at a time. If you put just a giant blob in there, it'll sort of get really bunchy. So just put nice small amounts in there, a little bit at a time, and sort of like shape it around, okay? Now once it's been stuffed sufficiently, we're going to take a piece of yarn, I still have mine from earlier, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a running stitch around the edge. So come in from the inside, because we're going to pull it that way, and just leave yourself a little bit of a tail here and do the same thing. Go in and out, all the way around. All right, now take your 2 ends and you're just gonna kind of like pull them closed. Again, being very gentle with this particular yarn because it does snap. And then we're gonna get another, my yarn has gotten a little bit too short, so I'm gonna get another piece. So we're gonna use this to create our segments. Our pumpkin's a little shapeless right now. So what you wanna do is we're gonna kind of squish it down a little, and we're going to come up from the bottom. So find the middle bottom of this, go all the way through to the top. You might have to like feel around for it a little bit. And then we're going to pull this through almost all the way through. See how when I pull it, it just creates that nice little segment. And we're going to do the same thing. Come up from the bottom and go up and pull it through. And as you pull it, it'll start to, now I'm kind of helping to shape it with my hands. Okay, we're going to wrap this around again. Make sure all your segments are more or less the same size. Okay, and then as you pull it, again, kind of like shape it up. See, I'm like kind of like shaping up the segments a little bit. Okay, once you're done with your segments, now I'm going to shape this up a little bit. We're going to tie this closed. So just a couple times just to make sure it stays put. And you can cut this up close to the pumpkin. It'll sort of blend in. And then we're going to just kind of like shape up our segments a little bit. This yarn is very squishy. So once it has the shape that you're happy with, grab one of your cinnamon sticks and we're gonna try this ribbon. I love this ribbon, it matches really nicely. I'm gonna pull out, I would say about 12 to 18 inches of this. I didn't worry about cutting it nicely to start, but I like to kind of like pre-plan this a little bit before I commit to the glue. So the cinnamon stick, you kind of have to drill in there a little bit because it gets a little bit snug, okay? And then our ribbon, what we're gonna do, I have a very wide ribbon here. This is, I think it's like 1.5 inches, no, 2.5 inches wide. So it's pretty wide, but you can use any ribbon you have on hand. And I haven't glued this yet. I like to kind of set it into place first. Now, obviously this is too long, but what I'm gonna do is cut it a little past the pumpkin to start at an angle towards the stem, okay? So that way we can sort of shape it up like that, okay? Do the same thing on this side. I like to cut a little bit more than I think because you can always trim it down later, okay? So just kind of look at it and I'm gonna take it down just a little bit more. Just like that, okay? Make it the same on both sides. And if you're using wired ribbon, use an old pair of scissors because that wire is a little hard on your scissors blade. And then once you have everything the way you want it to look, and then you just want to put a little blob of glue down there and just kind of work it in there. You might have to kind of to drill it into place. But that's okay. However you need to secure it. You could use hot glue too as an option. And then you might need to kind of reshape this. So I hope you enjoyed making this little pumpkin as much as I did. And that is how you make an easy beginner knit pumpkin. Thanks so much for watching and be sure and click on the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux knitting updates. Bye everyone and happy knitting!